that actually seeing that there is a problem there, going skipping for food, organising like, you know, free meals for people in the street. It doesn't have to be that kind of really full-on thing. For me, it's much more a question of not asking for other people to sort out a problem, but actually just doing it ourselves. And I think that if we start thinking about it like that, then all of a sudden it doesn't have that kind of, oh my god, if I'm not a 6'3" professional climber, then I can't really do it. Or if I'm not, you know, the kind of person who's ready to spend 10 years in jail, then I can't do it. It's that it provides space for being really creative.
Maybe for you, direct action is, you know, going and doing some street theatre, or maybe it's, you know, writing to your MP. Even, you know, there are contested debates. I think for me, it's very much about being a kind of active citizen. And, you know, my take on it is very much, you know, I should look for all the opportunities that the system has given me to affect the change that I want to. But I also have to recognise there are limits on what the system is prepared to do. And, you know, thinking very carefully about when you step outside those limits and what you do and how you do it. That's kind of my take on it. It's an extension and a strengthening of democracy rather than anything else.
The anti-road movement, for me, are a really great inspiration, because it's kind of, what I find interesting is that very often they're seen as not having been effective, because quite a lot of the roads that the specific camps were trying to stop actually happened. Is that I found that what is very, very often written off of history is that the anti-road movement cancelled like almost 900 roads, a program of 900 roads in the country. Is that it was actually a really, really effective movement.
I don't know if it's but there's similar things are said about the anti-war movement and how it was unsuccessful in stopping the war. But I think there's a lot of successes that it doesn't talk about in terms of just demonstrating a strong public feeling. And there's probably a big reaction around the world to it as well, which is important.
Yeah. I think it's important to mention is that, going on what you said before, what is direct action? It's just directly taking responsibility of your own life, and that could be intervening with airport expansion. That could be just cycling on the road. When actually cyclists are just always moved to the side, actually you're directly, you know, asserting your right to cycle and at the same time stopping pollution, which is also direct action. There's also, a lot of the time it's seen as very confrontational, as has been said, but it can be also very transformative. Do people know the Transition Town movement? Most people could say there's issues with that. What the Transition Town movement is that it's a kind of decentralisation of power where local towns and areas get together and work out how they're going to tackle peak oil and climate change by going on a kind of energy descent plan and how they can live without oil. And that's, you know, challenging the power structures that be, and that's directly taking their situation into their own hands. So that's when it's talking about actually democratic process and really participating, and it can be a really empowering form on many different levels as well.
I mean, just to give a really concrete example from my own quite recent experience, this open cast mine in Merthyr, it's currently being sort of dug out. The nearest homes are about 35 metres away from what will be a 200 metre deep coal pit, so it's having a pretty serious impact on the local community there. Now, the local community have been resisting it, given every avenue that they've been offered. They've been resisting it for the past, you know, up to the past 20 years in some cases. You know, they've had legal challenges, they've gone in, they've talked to their MPs, and basically it's been steamrolled through by Westminster. So they got to the end of their tether and they got in touch with us and said, you know, we're not really comfortable kind of breaking the law because, you know, someone's quite old, we don't really want to have to go and run around on the coal site, but you guys seem to have a lot of energy, would you come down and do it? And just, you know, that kind of, it being the only avenue left for them, and they invited us down. And I don't think we don't really have to think about whether it was effective or not what we did, because it was effective in terms of giving them a little bit of hope, giving them a little bit of energy. They're now getting it together to put together another High Court legal challenge against the mine, and I think that probably wouldn't have happened if we hadn't gone down, because they were about to give up, basically. So I think that for me is a really nice example, you know, of what it can achieve.
Well, for me, it's that it actually is about practicing or trying out the world that I certainly would like to see. So to actually say, well, this system is definitely not working. It's actually making us go to the wall at a very, very scary speed. And if I really think about it as, doing things myself in a sustainable way and stopping what I really feel is actually going to kill us all is what for me is the antidote to climate change, because I don't think that